Hi, my name is Frankie. Thank you for listening to My Mom. I never listen.
As promised, Nothing But Net with Debbie Antonelli continues to roll on. And today's guest, we've got Jim Garofalo. He's the Executive Vice President of Sales and Marketing in North America for Kinexon. Jim, thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, Debbie. Thanks for having me. It's great to meet you.
It's great to meet you, man. You are the buzz right now. I mean, everyone's talking about Kinexon and explain your technology. Tell the fans how it works. I know a lot of people want to know what's going on with all this contact tracing in the middle of a pandemic, and yet you found a way to help us be able to play college sports.
Yeah, it's actually been quite amazing. I think that when we all set out on this journey back in March, I think we had a vision for where we wanted to go with our current technology and start to bring it to life in the not in the college landscape, but also in pro sports. And thankfully we had a technology we worked on that we were able to adapt and bring to life for, as you mentioned, for contact tracing and proximity sensors. And really, we were really surprised of how well it was bought into, and how quickly it's kind of caught on to not only the professional landscape but also in the college landscape as well.
So, Jim, you're going to talk about technology that some of us aren't going to have any idea, but if you could put it in
Yep.
terms like this, flip phone to smartphone, we might be able to understand what you mean.
Yeah, so our technology works with sensor to sensor recognition, right? So if I have a sensor on and you have one on, Debbie, what our technology can do is tell Jim's sensor was within 6 feet of Debbie's sensor, and we were in contact with each other for 5 minutes, 6 minutes, 4 minutes, and it'll log that individual contact. So throughout the course of a practice or a game, two athletes will be coming in contact with each other, and as we know, that 6 foot of contact, 15 minutes of duration is a very important number that athletic departments and medical professionals are looking at. So what it's going to do is it's going to log those contacts between us and between our teammates or opponents or officials, and it's going to be able to accumulate all that information. And at the end of a game, at the end of a practice session, the medical professional that's associated with an individual school or a team would be able to go in, take a look at that data, and then be able to accurately tell if I have an athlete that may be at risk based off someone that may have tested positive. So really, it's not about location. We're not kind of tracking every movement of where an athlete is or GPS type of technology here. It's really sensor to sensor activity, and then what that duration, what that contact intensity looks like. So time and duration that two individuals are in contact with each other.
So most teams have this sensor built into their uniforms somehow, and
Mm-hmm.
you have to share information between the two schools as well. Is that correct? How does that work?
Yeah, so that you're right. A lot of our teams have been sewing like little pockets in their jerseys or on their shorts that they will insert a our sensor in, and our sensor is quite small. Actually, I always have one here by me, but the sensor is about that size. So it's a size of a domino, really. That they'd take it out of a charging tray, put it into their uniform, and then it's going to be actively looking for other tags to interact with. Now, you're right. We do have to have some coordination between conferences to be able to have, tags talk to each other. But that's been off and rolling now, and we've had really good success. So after a particular game, whether it be like this past weekend, Georgia Tech and Kentucky, those two after a game can go back and look at not only the information that they have for their own athletes and the contacts that took place, but if there was any contact across teams as well, and really be able to be a good partner in this whole thing, right? We all know that we're kind of in an unprecedented time, and to be able to share that information that, hey, sensor number two was a positive test post game, do the appropriate contact tracing on your side of things, on the opponent side of things, if there is something that happened to come in contact for that length of time that was that would prove that they wouldn't be at risk.
Jim, obviously your ingenuity and your creativity is on display here, right? I mean, I don't want to be so dramatic as to say that you saved college sports this year, but I think you did save college sports in some ways because through the CDC and through all the NCAA and the conferences and everything that you've signed agreements with, you had to have some measure of confidence to know that this was going to actually allow us to play. How did some of those conversations go without, calling out any particular league or anything?
Well, I would love to take credit for all this, but I think we have an amazing team of engineers and developers that are at our headquarters in Germany that took what was being used for performance technology. I mean, we have a very strong background in monitoring athlete performance, whether it be speeds, accelerations, those type of things that NBA athletes, college athletes are looking at on a day in and day out basis. And they were able to take that same technology and make the changes to make it applicable for what we're dealing with now. I would say that we felt really confident in the solution that we had and what it could deliver. I think it takes a really innovative partners and people that are really concerned with the health and safety of their athletes and to bring college sports and pro sports back. And the credit goes to them. Like, we had a technology that we could prove worked and was going to deliver information efficiently and the way it should be delivered. But then it also takes, commissioners and medical task force and athletic trainers and team doctors and strength conditioning coaches that are all looking at this data, and they want their athletes to be safe. So it takes some coordination from those individuals to really buy into what are the ways that we're going to keep our athletes the safest when they're on court. And we all want college sports. We all want pro sports. I think as much as anybody, we want to see everybody back on the court safely. But I think really when it comes down to us showing what the technology can do, it's really kind of the backing of these professionals that are across these conferences and pro leagues that really bought into what it can deliver and how it can keep their athletes safe.
We're getting to spend some time with Jim Garofalo, the Executive Vice President of Sales and Marketing in North America for the Kinexon technology. That is what we would call in layman's terms the contact tracing that allows us to actually be able to play. Jim, you've got a great team. Obviously, your engineers are way ahead of and advanced, and you also have incredible leadership skills to be able to communicate a message, to get some of the other respective leaders in college sports to be able to make a decision and take a risk in some ways. How did you sell it?
Well, it's funny. I appreciate that. I think that, as these were coming about, I think that, teams started to feel like they had parts of the equation figured out, right? Like testing protocols, although they're not easy, they were able to start to figure those out. And then as they were starting to go, they realized that there was a gap in this information. And I think what really unlocked it for me, and the story that we were talking about a lot as we were going through, is we were hearing stories of people sitting in front of computer screens or video screens for hours on end with a stopwatch and trying to identify athlete A came in contact with athlete B, and here's the exact time that was there. We were able to show them a solution that really, by putting two sensors on an athlete and then putting them back into a charging tray and an upload, a format where they could upload that information afterwards relatively quickly, and that automates that entire process for them. I think with all the other things that had to be added to this regular, what I call this new normal college basketball season or college football season, with all those things that were added to the individuals on these staffs, I think having something that was going to create an automated process to do this for them was something that was really attractive to these conferences. So it started with, I think it's been well documented. We worked with the bubble in Orlando. We've done some stuff here with the NFL to start this year. And then really our college exposure started with the SEC. And from there, they brought it to life from a college football perspective and rolled it for basketball. And now since then, the Pac-12, the Missouri Valley, the ACC, the Big 12 are all people now that are trusting us to use this technology and help deliver, fast information to keep their athletes safe.
You got to love Greg Sankey and the SEC and the commissioner for trying to figure out a way. He was constantly through the entire pandemic discussion early on about would college football happen, always trying to find a way. I know you love sports. Do you have a favorite team? What'd you do growing up?
Well, I'm the son of an athletic trainer, and my dad worked for the Chicago Cubs when I was a kid. So I grew up a Cubs fan, and being here in the suburbs of Chicago, Cubs and Blackhawks obviously were right there. But I'm a Wisconsin Badger, so I
Oh,
live and breathe Badger athletics, and I was really excited to see them getting back on the field finally after a little bit of pause here. But I'm a huge Badger fan, but that doesn't take away from now I'm becoming more and more of a fan across all these conferences because I have so much respect for what the commissioners are doing, what the individual athletic directors and all the individuals to get these athletes back on the field. So I think it's turned into a deeper appreciation across the NCAA landscape than you really had before that all of this, just to see all the work they're putting in to keep everybody safe.
if I may humbly say, and I am in no position to say this, but thank you on behalf of college athletics as a former athlete myself and someone who loves basketball and has been working in the game for 30 plus years. I hate to even tell you how long. It's really remarkable to think that there's technology out there that can actually allow us to play. And then as a mom, to know that my kid is safe. That's another thing that I think is really important. So what's next? Like this, we're going to have a virus. I mean, excuse me, we're going to have a vaccine for the virus. And when we get the vaccine for the virus, I know there's got to be something next for you that you're thinking that doesn't give up a patent or anything that you're out there on, but I
Yeah.
can just imagine you've got some ideas.
Yeah, I mean, I think we know that the reality of all this, there's going to be some time into the first half of next year where we're continuing to make sure that we're keeping everyone safe during competition. But you're right, there has to be a point for us where we start to look now, what's that pivot back to our core, right? So, really now what we've had the chance to learn, the people that we've had a chance to meet as part of all this, unfortunately, with the situation we all were in, we came up with a solution here that entered, fortunately and unfortunately, right? We had to deal with what we were kind of faced with here, but it also opened up a lot of opportunities for us to meet a lot of people across the NCAA landscape now that are introduced to Kinexon and the technology and what it can deliver, right? So now there is a real opportunity for us to really continue to emphasize what we can do from a performance side of it. So now we've had a chance to keep them safe from a COVID and kind of return to play protocol. But now, what can we do to deliver a performance solution that's going to keep their athletes safe and continuing to improve from a performance perspective? So we see a real opportunity there. Continuing to do what we've done really well now for 4 or 5 years on the NBA side of things in college basketball. And we see a lot of growth opportunities in that side of it. And we've got some big plans, and I think we're really fortunate to have unlocked an opportunity like this and give people a solution that has really, I think, helped kind of get them back and going here.
Well, Jim, I'm a fan of what you're doing. I hope that when you launch the next level of your technology, that you'll be able to come back and tell us what you got going on. And you're always welcome anytime. And we might just get you on here just to talk a little Badger basketball one day.
Yeah, I would absolutely love that, and really appreciate you reaching out to us. I think the more people that are shining a light on what athletic departments are doing and college conferences are doing to really keep their athletes safe. So I think it really just helps hammer home how important these student athletes are to what's going on in the college athletics landscape currently.
Thank you so much, Jim. Jim Garofalo, the Executive Vice President for Sales and Marketing in North America of the Kinexon Technology. Jim, thanks so much for joining Nothing But Net with Debbie Antonelli.
Thanks so much, Debbie. I appreciate it. Stay safe.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for listening. We'll catch you next time.
Awesome.
Sweet.
Yes.
Thank you, Debbie. That was great.
More than 15. You're awesome. And I am a fan. I'm not kidding. I mean, this is really cool. And I'm so thankful that you agreed to do it. I kept seeing your name pop up and everything and all the recent, all my study. And I was like, this is really awesome.
Yeah, I would say that, when they first came to us, it's so funny because you see these things and they start to tell you like, hey, we can do this. And you start, okay, let's take a look. How long is this going to last? And then when you start to get into June, July, and August, we're like, we've really got something here. And you mentioned Commissioner Sankey. I mean, Greg was at the forefront of all this stuff. And I think like what he did, how he rolled this out with football, and then what he did to continue to emphasize how important this was along with the testing. I mean, I think from there you can see, I mean, like, with what the Valley's doing, and Pac-12, and you're going to see ACC and Big 12 here. They're already rolling, but you're going to see some info coming out about those. I think for us now, the ability for all these schools to work together and talk to each other during this type of thing, even if they don't have it, they're actually sharing devices with visitors that come in and say, hey, this is helping us, this is helping you. It's really going to be interesting to see when tournament time comes around, because I think we have a real, especially if we're bubbling like everybody's talking about, you could see, conceivably, we could do this across all 68 teams that make the tournament if we wanted to. It really is a chance.
Fascinating. I think you have revolutionized our ability to play. Honestly, I mean, you're not going to take that much credit for it because you're just I know you have a team, and that's what a good leader would do. But I work for ESPN full time, but I work for CBS on the men's tournament, first and second round. So I'm an analyst, and I'm excited about being in the bubble. Whatever they're going to do with us. Obviously we don't know. They haven't told us, but I'm game for
I think there's a
whatever.
real chance. I think there really is a chance for this to be, think of the NFL, for them to do what they did in the NFL. I know the topic is basketball here, but think of the NFL and having 32 teams that have, athletes, staff, and all that stuff, and be able to have one of these devices on anybody that walks into an NFL facility from a training perspective. The undertaking that they did there and how that's worked. And listen, we all know, we're not stopping this, but I think when you see the amount of actual games that have either been canceled or postponed and moved, and how that it stopped those large scale outbreaks within a group. That's what it's for. We're not going to, anybody that says that we're stopping this completely is, I wouldn't believe, but the way it's worked so far has been really successful.
Right before my 1 o'clock Zoom call with ESPN, I got an email. I'm supposed to have NC State, Michigan men on Wednesday. Well, Wisconsin and Michigan both canceled.
Yeah, I saw that.
I didn't want to say that because I didn't want to date the podcast, but
we've seen it. We've seen it, and it's interesting because we'll get calls on this morning. Hey, we had testing game. Can you help us look into this? Now, a lot of the schools can just go in and they click a sensor number, and it's all anonymized, right? So whether it's you may see something that's as generic as UK men's basketball -1, -2, -3, right? So it's nobody knows who the numbers are. But then if there is a positive test across two schools, you can just go and say, hey, check out sensor number 12. If anybody had access to them for, longer than 15 minutes at that distance, you could easily go in and track it within a matter of minutes versus
one thing I forgot to ask you is, you have changed the way teams function, from the way they eat to how they warm up. I know for me, when we're doing games at home and I'm watching for a 7 o'clock game, it's 6:15 and neither team is out there warming up because they don't want to start their contact tracing time. It's really interesting.
And they also, I think that part of it also, it's changed locker room behavior. It changed bench. Guys are coming and saying, well, my benches I've got chairs X amount of distance apart. They're using the tags now to say, okay, what's the safe distance between my two chairs, so I may not, so I don't come in contact. I think the good news that we've seen out of all this, across team exposure has been very little, right? So team A and team B, their cross team exposure has not been huge numbers by any means in the short time that we've been looking at college basketball data. Same thing with college football. I think you see some interior linemen and things like that that'll be some higher numbers, but the cross-team information is not significantly high currently. What we still all need to do work on is our own teams, right? How are we doing timeouts? How are guys kind of sitting next to each other or standing next to guys on the bench? And I know we're all, we all have we're creatures of habit and have our own superstitions that we got to stand next to this guy versus this guy. But I think it's starting to see if coaches that are using it the right way and start to really look at the information, they're saying, hey, guys, we may have a timeout here. Don't all stand next to the same people each time. Kind of stagger out where you're going. So it's a teaching tool as well.
Yeah, I've had coaches say, I'm not putting the star player with another starter. I'm going to separate them and they're going to be on the bus next to the last player on the bench. It's just, unfortunately, that's a part that has been kind of interesting, but it makes sense. You definitely don't want to have your starting five go out.
It really does. It really does. So it's been like I will say it's been absolutely bananas for us right now, just with all that we're trying to keep on track of and everybody rolling out
Sure.
at the same exact time. But this weekend was kind of a big deep sigh because we had everybody going at the same time. We had some cross conference games, so everything was going as it should. And for us, if we've got a seat on our side and it creates a little bit of chaos on our side, as long as the teams are like, we know they've been disrupted as it is, as long as they can do their job and be as normal as possible, like we'll take it on our end for that, just to make sure that they're in good shape. So that's the most important part for us.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of us that are glad sport is back, so thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for your time, and we'll get you, when we're going to be doing this for a while, so we'll get you back.
Yeah, I'd love to. This was great. Thanks so much, and I'm glad that you had a chance to connect with Matt. Matt's a superstar on our team, so
Yes.
wanted to make sure that you guys had a chance to talk on that part of it too. But anything you need, anything you need at all, just let us know. We're happy to help out in any way possible.
Thank you so much, Jim. Really appreciate it.
Nice to meet you all.
All right.
Take care.
Stay